to the Voiceover Round Table. I'm Mike Tobin.
And I'm Emma O'Neill. Every week, we get together to talk about all things voiceover, with a special focus on community.
Bringing you in-depth interviews, roundtable discussions, special performance events, and industry-leading guests.
Let's get started. This is the Voiceover Round Table.
We've got another fun show lined up for you folks, so let's get started with introducing our special guest, Miss Emma O'Neill. Go for it.
Okay, tonight we have the pleasure of welcoming someone who has been a key national voice talent for over 25 years and is one of the industry's premier voiceover coaches for more than 15 years. His credits as a signature voice are extensive. ABC, AT&T, Big Brother, Food Network, Hyundai, depends on where you're from, TLC's Modern Marvels, NBC, Shell, TBS, and Wells Fargo.
That's lots of work.
I know.
He's a former studio executive at CBS Paramount Television and was founder and president of his own media consulting agency, Walsh Media. All of these diverse yet synergistic career paths merged to form the cornerstone of his powerful and well-known coaching technique, the TrueTell, a unique and effective method of building career, individual, professional, and personal confidence, better performance, and overall success.
Welcome to the Voiceover Roundtable, Dave Walsh. For some reason, his audio is all of a sudden not working. We just had it where I don't know what is happening right now. Mike, you keep going. I'm going to sort this out on this end.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, we will have Dave Walsh for you in a few moments, folks. We just line up the technical stuff. Saying a quick hello to some of our regulars joining us, like Annie, Iman, Peter's there, Tiffany's there, Max, James. Wow. Joe Sip's in the house. Joe Cipriano joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, Joe. We had a great time with Joe on the show recently. Check out those replays if you want to hear that. Tom Antonellis is in the house. One of the busiest guys I've ever seen. I don't know.
Here we go.
Was it sometimes? Hey.
You know something? If I knew anything, I'd be dangerous. I'm so sorry.
That's it.
For some reason, the stupid thing muted. I don't know why. Anyway, hello, everybody. I don't know anything. I'm just a nightmare. Sorry, kids. Sorry. Let's go back to the spinach shake. Oh, girl.
Emma, I can't hear you.
See, it's not bad.
It's like gremlins all over the place. It's got to be the full moon, eh?
It is a full moon. It is a full moon tonight. It's absolutely true. Yeah.
Oh. Very strange. It's very
I believe we can all be heard at this particular moment in time. So nobody touch anything.
Nobody touch. Nobody move. Nobody do anything.
We're going to do the thing. This is one of the things, like, we're going to plow right into it. Dave, thank you so much for making time for us. We'll talk about the spinach shake later.
Okay.
But
sorry.
This is something we'll have a little fun with to warm things up. Just a bunch of simple questions, sort of first thing comes to mind. Easy peasy, ready? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
As part of our ongoing efforts to save the planet and appease the robots, up to 30% of this content may be recycled or created by AI. Listener discretion is advised. All right, here we go. 10 questions coming right at you. You just got some amazing news and you're heading out for a celebratory meal. What's on the menu? What's the meal?
Chicken Parmesan.
Okay, we won't dwell on chicken parm. Question number 2. You're out with some voiceover people for like some post-conference entertainment or something, and you're dragged onto the stage for karaoke. What's your go-to song?
Okay, you're gonna. I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt.
Ooh, I like that.
Some people are going, ooh.
They go, Google it, folks. Google it.
Yeah.
All right, back to food, and one of the more common questions that gets asked at a banquet type setting. Will you be having the chicken, beef, fish, or vegetarian dish, sir?
I'll be doing the chicken.
All right.
Yeah.
Question number 4, a pair of related recycled questions here. You can have your choice of any car for a drive up the Pacific Coast Highway. What will you drive?
I'll be driving a BMW 5 Series convertible.
Nice. All right, related question, yes. Automatic or stick?
Right.
Since I've had 2 sticks and they've been fine, I'm at the age now where to let the paddle shifters do it. I mean, I'll take
Electronic.
give me the paddles, which I know is not the same as driving, but yeah, I'd rather.
It's a heck of a lot of fun.
It is. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Question number 6. I don't know if you do this kind of thing, but if you do, what is the last show that you binge watched and loved?
I just watched Beckham
Okay.
on Netflix. Awesome. So good. Beckham is awesome. And, because I didn't know. I knew the Bend like Beckham. I didn't know Beckham in his 20s. Like, I didn't know how incredibly, like, he was the complete obsession of Europe, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize how big he actually was. And the fact that he moved around so many times, that he went to like 6 or 7 or 8 teams. Mm-hmm. So when he came to the Galaxy in LA, here in LA, it was, he'd come off of, that fame, which was insane. But the documentary, if anybody hasn't seen it, it is truly awesome. Really beautiful.
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted for sure.
Yep.
All right. We're almost through. Then we got question number 7.
Yep.
You get 1 ride for 1 hour stop in a time machine. When and where do you go?
Wow.
I know this.
1 hour stop anywhere in history.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to stop in 1957
Okay.
when my dad was a soda jerk. I want to go to that store in Brighton, Massachusetts, where he was a soda jerk. Yeah. And I want to sit at the counter for an hour. Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Here comes the cry. Here comes the crying. Here it comes. There it comes.
If you have not worked with Dave Walsh before, please bring your Kleenex. If you don't have Kleenex in the room currently, please leave the room and get some.
Tissues are mandatory.
Thank you.
All right. We only got a couple less, so we're going to lighten it up a little bit. All right. Dave, morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Okay.
Yep.
Follow-up question. Then what's your go-to breakfast jam? Your breakfast meal of choice.
Okay, so if I had my choice and nothing had calories in it,
Spinach pancake.
spinach. Absolutely. My go-to breakfast would be, pancakes, like the richest buttermilk pancakes you could possibly find, and a spiral ham, a nice spiral ham.
Red was having pancakes as her late night meal. So
Right?
Yeah. See? Yeah. No, absolutely. It is the best pancakes in the world. Dupar's pancakes in LA. I would go for that totally. Yeah.
All right. Now for the boring last voiceover question.
Yep.
You can only pick one for the remainder of your stellar career. Is it a shotgun mic or a condenser mic?
Shotgun.
There it is.
Yep.
I think we're 3 for 3, but going by the guests we asked this question.
promo. What do you want to go with?
Oh, wow.
What do you think we're going to go with?
That was fun. Thanks for playing along.
Oh, totally. I love rapid
You
fire.
got some great answers.
Love these. And there was some new questions too. So there's always something new. That time machine one was new, and I loved. Everyone's weeping, of course.
That was the cool. No one's ever asked me that question. That was a fantastic question.
Well done, Mike.
Yeah, nice job, Mike.
Thanks.
Really good.
Speaking of questions, we're gonna get right into some questions. This is what we're gonna do.
All right.
So here we go. Okay, so
I love that.
things that get thrown around a lot in the voiceover industry are expressions like "know your worth," "don't sell yourself short," and more, especially when it comes to rates. But one of the things you've been talking about a lot is this concept of the value of your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a bit about what you mean by that and why it's so important?
Absolutely. And I think, the work that I've done in working with performers, and, a number of you might know the program that I created called the TrueTell method. Some of you have worked with me. Emma has definitely. That over time, I stopped and I'm working with clients every day, in the coaching aspect of it. But what has started to happen over the last several years, and in particular over the last 12 months, is really focusing on the value of your voice, because I have run into so many situations with clients, both my voiceover clients and my corporate clients, where people immediately talk about that they've had a squandered, their voice was never allowed to be heard. They were very marginalized as children. They were marginalized, and they continue to be marginalized as adults, because they have a vision of their voice as being less than. They don't feel that they have earned the right to be successful in voiceover, or they haven't earned the right to be heard. Even more general as that, as opposed to specifically voiceovers. So I have found such a need and a desire that people have had to be counted, and which has shifted my coaching completely, which has really changed the direction, gone deeper, if you could possibly imagine.
Lord.
I know.
How?
I know. But it's really created an incredible response from clients of the guidance that it's given them, the self-awareness of themselves. And, I've had several clients say to me that they really don't think that their voice has had value until recently. Not necessarily working with me, but just in life, that they just don't feel like they've had the opportunity. I have a young client who was told to not be so loud and be so, what's the word? Not happy is not the word, but just being so loud. Whereas this is where this person expresses their happiness. It expresses their outward appearance. And it's become a liability in his ability to storytell, to work in voiceover. And so we worked on that outside of the typical, here's a commercial script to work on, here's a promo script or a trailer. It's about, how are you showing up as you? How are you showing up as a human? And all of the things that have become liabilities and assets in your life that paint the foundation of your voice. It's the thing, it's your source, it's your core. That's what a lot of the work I'm doing with clients are on now. It's on core. And that really is connected right to your value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you touched a little bit on TrueTell. As we said in the intro, it's a cornerstone of your coaching for many, many years now.
Right.
Can you tell us, obviously without going too deep into it, but
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the technique itself and how it came about.
It came about strictly, particularly related to what we just discussed about not knowing the value of my own voice. I lost my voice because I was using it ineffectively in my work, and I strangled my vocal cords, and I had to relearn how to speak. And as I learned that, I realized that I was using a voice that was inauthentic. The doctor I worked with, specializing in this particular area of a vocal disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, which is the medical term for the strangled voice syndrome. And I worked with him extensively for 6 months and then became his apprentice for 4 years. So I worked with people who had this particular disorder. And what I started to realize was, as my vocal cords continued to strangle, I started to lose my identity as a human being, to the point where I did contemplate suicide at one point. It was so bad that my career had spiraled to a place where it had reached such a high, and then it completely collapsed because I didn't have any answers as to why my voice had given out.
At that point, how long had you been in VO?
I had been in VO at that point 17 years.
Yeah.
And so at the height of the career, which started about year 13 and a half to 14, it started to weaken and weaken and weaken and weaken. And so I kept thinking it was my voice was dehydrated, and I would walk out of the booth sweating profusely, thinking that it was just my voice was dehydrated. Meanwhile, my cords were strangled. But in this journey, I found out that speaking authentically, understanding what I'm talking about, shifted my voice. So when I first started coaching clients, it was really to give back. I had to find a way to unpaint the windows that were black and figuring out how to still feel relevant in voiceover. So I started to coach. But what started happening was I started using the principles that I learned with the doctor, but more of the fact of just speaking as myself. And their careers started to shift. People started to book more and more work. And these weren't people with damaged voices. These were actors that were trying to find a shorter lead to get to bookings. And what they were coming back to me saying was, I never realized how effortless this actually is once I know what I'm talking about. So instead of us stepping in the booth, trying to prove our value by how we sound, it's stepping in the booth and proving our value by what we know. That's the big difference, is that you understand the concept of, what you're talking about, who you're talking to, why, etc. What actors tend to do, all of us, when we start, we think that the question, who am I talking to, is the only question that needs to be asked in voiceover.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to, right? But the reality is that there's so much more involved in human conversation. The depths to which make outstanding storytelling, outstanding dinner conversation, outstanding cocktail conversation. When you've come back from a dinner and you hear someone saying, oh my God, Emma had the most amazing story last night she told, and you riveted the room because the story was so real, so funny, so colorful, you had them literally hanging on a cliff. That's outstanding storytelling. And it's not about the sound of your voice. It's how you're captivating the people in the room.
Yeah.
And if you want to translate that into, or replace Emma with producers, you want the room of people at the dinner party, those people become the producers, the agents, the pay-to-play sites. Those become your audiences, and they hire you and rehire you because you're interesting.
Right.
Not that you have a good voice. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Would it make more sense if we threw somebody in at the deep end and got someone from the audience and gave them a script and had you work with them for a few minutes?
Sure, if you want to do that, absolutely.
Okay, we're just going to pop into the chat.
Wow, you two don't waste any time. You just throw people into the fire.
We do. It's what we do.
We're on a limited time here.
It's what we do. I've got Tom Antonellis and Jessica Mars. I think I'm going to bring two of them up on stage, and both of you are going to send me your emails. I think I have both your emails. And I am going to send you a script. Mm-hmm. So post in the chat, just in case I don't have your email, which I should.
Mm-hmm.
Send in the chat.
Send it in the chat.
And the other thing, the thing about this too is, not worrying about how my voice sounds. I had a client the other day say to me, my voice sounds like it's getting raspy, which I didn't hear anything in the voice at all. I heard nothing in it. But that we start obsessing about how it's going to sound versus how is it feeling.
Yeah.
This isn't rocket science, but it's coming out of a conversation just the way we do away from the microphone, where everything feels connected. But again, where this all starts before you even get into the booth is, what the hell is the value of me behind the microphone at all? Why am I even here? Other than Emma just sent me a script, right? Emma just sent me a script. Now I'm on deck and I'm on the clubhouse call, and now, oh my God, and I have to prove that I can do this. But if you were doing this in a casual conversation in a room, at a dinner, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So we're making a mountain out of a molehill. Not that Tom, who are the two folks that are doing this?
Tom and Jessica.
Hello, Jessica, as well.
Jessica's on stage, yes, but she's coming up.
Okay. But that's the thing. Everybody, before we do this, it's not about how Tom's going to sound, Jessica's going to sound. It's what is the story they're telling. That's what our job is as voice actors. Our gift is to storytell. And we're going to talk about AI and truth and value of voices. I'd love to jump into that for a few minutes because...
But before we do this, because it's like Tom and Jessica, take a second to read it. I've sent you guys the script. Let me know if you don't receive it, but you should have it. But I just want to touch on what you were talking about of, I was telling a story and la, 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 and then you flipped it around. But I think, for me, at least, sometimes, because we get these instructions all the time, like, just tell the story, do this thing. So then we go into storyteller mode. Instead of that was such a real, tangible example of telling a story. When you're not paying any attention to what you sound like, all you're paying attention to is like, are they listening? What's happening? Can I get him to listen to? This is a really funny story. And you just go. And it's not about trying to get someone's attention. It's about trying to share.
It's about trying to share. It's about, again, it's about the gift of what we do, of inspiring people, making them laugh, making them cry, making them think. Whatever the goal of the conversation is, there are plenty of those times where we don't think about how we sound. We are just so in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of storytelling, and we won't get into this now, but it's exactly what I'm saying to actors about AI and the proliferation of it. And the people that we know that are at the forefront of this conversation, the whole NAVA team, the people that are really in the trenches trying to get legislation passed to help protect us. The whole thing with AI, I keep saying, is that storytelling is your best defense. Your ability to overcome this, because I always say there's a nuclear holocaust coming, that it is going to be the best thing for you to do is to be the cockroach of voiceover.
Yeah. Be
that person that can sustain that, that event where your incredible gift as a prolific storyteller is what cuts through that AI noise. Big time. Yeah.
Mr. Tom Antonellis, are you ready?
I am indeed.
Fantastic. Do you have your tissue?
Yep. And
hey, Tom.
Storytelling is your best defense. Your incredible gift as a prolific storyteller to cut through the AI haze.
Yep.
I love you, Dave, and thank you. It's just a pleasure to address you at all.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much. It's good to talk to you, bud.
Good to talk to you, too. Let me stand and let me, shall I go right in or?
Well, okay, so this is a perfect point. Okay, shall I go right in? All right. This conversation, when you have it with directors, you have it with yourself at home, is the only reason for you to say yes, for me to say yes, which I won't say, I'll say, are you ready to tell the story? That's it.
I am. I love it.
Okay. Fantastic. Then we're all ears.
Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters. No big deal. So what is it about the word different that scares so many people? Is it the negative connotation it carries? Not fitting in? For those steadfastly anchored to the status quo, it probably is. But for those with courage and vision, being different is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be achieved. To them, different is good and the basis for change, for finding a better way of doing things.
Okay, so very nice work. Really, really good. Is there a particular section in the script, Tom, that you felt more connected to it than another section? What section?
The one, the section that goes from, so what is it about the word to, it probably is. Actually, I fell off in my connection at vision. Through to vision, I felt connected.
Okay.
Basically, the second half. Being different is not something to be ashamed of. I maybe got a little self-conscious.
Okay. Interesting how being different made him feel self-conscious.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So let me ask you a question. Who are you having the conversation with? First of all, who was telling the story? Let's start there.
I was telling the story.
To whom?
I'm not going to name the person, but the person is somebody who has had to face the fact that they're different.
Okay.
And they're dear to me.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. So it sounds like this is a conversation. What I'm hearing is it sounds like this is not the first time you've had this conversation.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay. Because I hear the conviction, I hear in the voice, I hear that you've had this conversation more than once. Particularly when you get down to the section where you're talking about being different is not something to be ashamed of. I think you're thinking that you're getting disconnected there, where in reality, I feel like there's validity to that statement versus the top part. I think if you have the opportunity to play this Clubhouse section back and you go back and listen to this, when we go from you talking to me about, are you ready to read the script, and you went to the words, all of a sudden your pitch went up. Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters. I felt like you were reaching in that section versus the second section. Tom, honestly, I think you came to play in the second section.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That's where you came to play, because for you, I think one of the things that, and this is giving you some love back, is that the reason that so many of us really have so many great things to say about you is because the love that you give to people is very unique in this business. It's one of the few examples I can point to. There are plenty of people that are wonderful, but there's something about the way that you give love, you give support, there's so many examples I can use that makes you different in and of yourself. First of all, you're impeccably dressed every time I see you. You always
the fedora every time.
You have the fedora every time. He's like, he's like the 1940s version of Scott Parkin.
Right.
It's like he comes well dressed and impeccable every time. That's different. So the things that make you that are really what this script is entirely about. And this is speaking for everyone out there who's different. Now tell the story.
Okay. 1 second. 1 sec.
Don't think.
I'm not blowing my nose.
Okay. Celebrate difference. Celebrate your difference and everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Celebrate difference.
Yes.
Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters, no big deal. So what is it about the word different that scares so many people? Is it the negative connotation it carries? Not fitting in? For those steadfastly anchored to the status quo, it probably is. But for those with courage and vision, being different is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be achieved. To them, different is good, and the basis for change, for finding a better way of doing things.
How'd that feel?
It felt so good.
Wonderful. Now I want to do one last thing. I want you to keep the read, and all I want you to do is to wrap it in a warm blanket. That's all I want you to do.
Got it.
Keep the read, keep the conviction, don't change it. Just wrap it in a nice, down, warm blanket.
Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters, no big deal. So what is it about the word different that scares so many people? Is it the negative connotation it carries? Not fitting in? For those steadfastly anchored to the status quo, it probably is. But for those with courage and vision, being different is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be achieved. To them, different is good. Different is good. And the basis for change, for finding a better way of doing things.
Yes. So what I love about the section about being different is good, that section there, the thing that the warm blanket does is it keeps the story, it keeps the source, the core of the story true. And all it does is it softens. It takes the thorns off the top. It's almost like I talk about like you're landscaping a bush. You're just kind of shaving the top off so it's nice and even. That's all you're doing. But through each of those takes, the conviction of the story was there. And that was beautiful. That was such a beautiful read. And
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And notice how we didn't talk about sound. We never talked about the sound of your voice. We talked about pitch because you were trying too hard.
Right.
But we found the core beautifully. And Tom, that was a lovely delivery. Really, really nice. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity to do this.
Absolutely. You're welcome, bud.
You rock. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Emma.
You're so welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, you.
Yes, absolutely. You will.
I'll see you in a top 40 callback.
Yes, you will.
Take care.
Pleasure. That was, especially when he let himself take his time.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. This is where you value. It's not just valuing your voice. It's valuing you.
Yeah.
It's valuing you. Don't ever feel like, because when I saw Being Different, I'm like, that is Tom Antonellis. That is who he is. Mm-hmm. And giving yourself that chance to just kind of celebrate, that your own achievements and the things that make you different and make you valuable. That's why I chose the script to use it, because it really is exactly what we're talking about. Nancy Wilson had a saying one time, I think it was in one of her posts, where she was talking about we're all in an industry of living in a clown car. I mean, we all live in a clown car. I mean, we're all the clowns living in a car. It's the car of freaks. I think it was what you call it, the car of freaks.
Car of freaks.
The car of freaks. We're all the cars of freaks, that we all live in that world, and every one of us brings something different to the work. So yeah. Anyway, so there you go.
Awesome. Jessica, are you ready?
Yeah, no pressure after that.
Beautiful. No.
Right.
No pressure at all.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I feel so lucky to be able to read for you. Thank you so much to everyone for picking me for this. I'm really excited and super nervous. So.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Don't be nervous.
Okay.
It's just, you and me and everybody else living in, but that's okay.
So all the freaks in the car. Don't worry about it.
We're all the freaks in the car. Totally.
Okay.
Okay. So, any questions before you jump in?
Not yet. No, I don't probably, but I can't think of them right now. So.
Okay. All right. So let's take your time. Just get yourself in the zone. Do not rush. You have plenty of time.
Okay.
And whenever you're ready.
Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters. No big deal. So what is it about the word different that scares so many people? Is it the negative connotation it carries? Not fitting in? For those steadfastly anchored to the status quo, it probably is. But for those with courage and vision, being different is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be achieved. To them, different is good, and the basis for change, for finding a better way of doing things.
Okay. How did that feel?
I felt a little soft, like just a really like an intimate read, like somebody was standing right next to me or someone is crying in front of me. That's kind of how it felt, I guess.
Okay, so think about it this way: when you're saying that the person you're talking to apparently doesn't have a name, because you would have told us they had a name.
Oh yeah, it's my niece Stella.
It's okay. So you did make a particular choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it about the conversation with Stella that why did you choose Stella for this conversation?
Because she has to, like, her mom is very conservative, and she has to kind of hide some things about herself that her mom wouldn't approve of, and I think it's really difficult for her, and she's only 16 years old, so it's tough.
Are you her favorite aunt?
I don't know, but I know that she she texts me, and she trusts me, I think. Yeah, I think that she feels really comfortable around me and another sister of mine. So, yeah.
Okay. So have you ever had this conversation with her?
No, I haven't.
So guess what? Here's the perfect opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Now tell the story to her.
Okay. Different. It's just a word, right? 9 simple letters. No big deal. So what is it about the word different that scares so many people? Is it the negative connotation it carries? Not fitting in? For those steadfastly anchored to the status quo, it probably is. But for those with courage and vision, being different is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it's something to be achieved. To them, different is good and the basis for change, for finding a better way of doing things, for finding a better way of doing things.
Okay. How did that feel?
To me, it's funny, like, I'm judging myself right now saying that didn't sound like, it sounded, to me, it felt very real. I felt like I was really speaking to her. There were maybe a couple times where I felt like I fell out a little. And then there was also, like, I felt like as I was reading it, I'm thinking, oh, that was too breathy, or I kind of like judging myself along the way, which is weird. But then I would silence that voice and just keep on with that feeling. And I felt like I was really speaking to her.
Okay. So I think that happened in the second half of the script. I think you started to listen to yourself when you got a little breathy at the back end. And then let's talk about the last line of finding a better way of doing things. Repeating the line over again, which we do pickups. We can do those easily. But when you repeat the line, it tells you immediately that you're not connected. It's the best red flag. I've said this so many times, that if you repeat a line, it's immediately telling you you're out of TrueTell. It tells you you're immediately out of the story. Because if you're having a conversation with her for real, in real life, you would never repeat the line again. Oh, by the way, let me say that again to you. And she'd say, what are you talking about? Why am I repeating what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But what I loved about the first 2/3 of the script was there was no breath. The breath was gone because the conversation was so real, was so authentic about that relationship you had with her. The read was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. You gave yourself permission to tell the story, and so the reasons that your read and Tom's read were completely different reads for different reasons, right? So that's what I'm saying, is that the value of what you each bring to the script is your own deal. Now, what I didn't ask of Tom, but I'll ask of you, what is the spec at the bottom of the page? What does it say?
Warm with authority.
That's all you get. You don't get gender. You don't get age. You get 3 words: warm with authority. That's all. So when you saw that spec, what was the first thing you thought? First of all, when did you look at the spec?
Well, I looked at it when I opened up the file. I mean, it was right there. Yeah. So I looked for it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't right there. It was at the bottom of the page. It wasn't like this size 50 font.
Oh,
look
well,
at me.
I mean, well, it wasn't the first thing I looked at. I looked at what it was about, the words, and then I just kind of scanned through it, and then I looked at the specs.
Okay. So what I would say is, don't look at the spec until you're about ready to read, after you prep the whole thing, because the spec is going to get in your way. The thing to keep in mind about the spec is not what you need to become, it's what you already are. It's what the reason that you're auditioning for this is because you have that story to tell, not because you have a voice that sounds like it's warm with authority. Remember that the warm authority is the byproduct of the story.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll sound breathy. It didn't say warm, breathy authority. It said warm authority.
Right.
Which was exactly what you got when you connected with her in an authentic way. It was beautifully done. Really, really nice, Jessica.
Thanks.
Gorgeous work. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, and I will say to you to say to your niece when you speak with her, tell her you spoke with me and tell her I said, never let anybody silence her voice. Ever, never let one person silence her voice. Ever.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much to both Tom and Jessica.
That was awesome. Awesome. It's a great script, but it was just two perfect examples of using the same words and telling two completely different stories.
Yeah.
Completely different stories, and giving yourself the permission to tell those stories, giving yourself permission to totally let go and to communicate, and that's the thing, is working from your home studio, which is what we're all doing now, is being able to be that authentic without the three of us being in the room and giving notes and giving, praise and giving direction.
Yeah.
Doing that on your own and feeling the connection of that empathy, that compassion, that support, and that value. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Dave.
Yeah,
I have a question for you. What happens if, let's say, a word or some of the words get in the way? For example, like in this script, I was looking at it and I go, the word steadfastly would never come out of my mouth. So how can I be authentic and real and tell a story like I would tell it if there's a word in there that I probably wouldn't use? But it's there in a script. I got to get through it. So what do I do? How do I?
So it's what I love to use as the example of getting past that is, first of all, we have judgments about the words, and it doesn't matter how long we stare at the script. The words are going to suddenly move around and say, "Oh my God, he hates us! He hates us!" And the words will some words will leave the page, and some words will come in. That doesn't happen.
No, we're stuck.
Right. And there are plenty of times where I've looked at scripts and immediately I look at it, I go, I hate the script. I hate it. I hate it. I hate everything about it, but I want to get it out. I get it out of my system.
Yeah.
But when I've started working with clients, I say, think of the words on the page think of this whole thing as like a birthday present. And think of the words on the page as the wrapping paper, the bows, etc. Now, everybody's going to look at a present in a different way. I don't think you did a little too much with the wrapping paper. I don't particularly like the bow you put on it. So think of the phrasing of the word steadfast as a really hideous bow that's on the present. Right. But the gift inside the box is the story. Yeah. So that the goal of this is always to enjoy, to revel in, to connect to the story, the gift. That the wrapping paper may not exactly be your style, but that's not your ultimate goal. It's the core again. We go back to the gift. Go back to the core.
How to go give the gift.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Before Emma's going to hit you up with another question, I'm just going to do our quick mid-show reminder, we call it. If you joined us partway through this evening's this evening's show, this is the Voiceover Round Table here on Clubhouse every Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, where we talk about all things voiceover with a special focus on community, bringing you in-depth interviews, roundtable discussions, special performance events, and industry-leading guests.
And tonight, our special guest is Dave Walsh.
Oh, stop it.
We have officially lightened the mood.
Just stop it. Don't stop it. Keep going. Stop it. Yeah.
Stop it.
Oh, man.
So, More stuff, more questions, because there's always more questions. I don't know if you've had a chance to look through the chat in general, but it's just gushing with love. Like, it's redonkulous. It's completely expected, but it's just like, everyone's like, oh my God, I'm weeping, I'm crying, this is amazing, and this is exactly what I came for, all of the things. But I have a question for you. I mean, we've worked extensively together, and I have gone through many, many boxes of tissues with this man.
I have to stop you a second. You directed me to the chat, and I just read Annie Plord's, where Annie said, wasn't expecting the ball as I was filling the dishwasher.
Yeah. Right?
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right. Dave should come with a warning. He does generally come with a warning. But if you don't know him, you don't know. And now you do. So welcome. Okay, so conversational.
Yeah.
The word. It gets thrown around the place. Is the most popular word in voiceover casting, along with authentic, which has just been named Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year. So
Yes, it has.
It's bigger than voiceover. What can voice actors do to get closer to that sometimes elusive, authentic read? I mean, we just had 2 examples of it, but if we could delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah, stop trying. Stop trying to get to the conversational read. The conversational read is when you're connected, period. It is not, conversation, it's really that. I mean, it's that kind of a simple answer, is that when you're connected to your story, when you're in your TrueTell, in whatever capacity that is, and if you listen to Jessica when she was talking to her niece in the first half of that script, and even Tom, when he was having that conversation, there's passion in these people's voices, right? So the whole idea of emphasizing, I think Tom, and if we're going to give a note maybe to massage it a little bit, the reason we put the warm blanket around it is because Tom can be very emphatic in how he talks. He's passionate.
Yeah,
I am too. I got that note for the longest time, is that using something like the warm blanket to smooth the readout is wonderful. But when you speak from that authentic place, and by the way, conversational doesn't mean just conversational. You could have retail conversational. You could have intimate conversational. You could have corporate conversational. So different areas command a different type of conversational. Promo is an area where people are very confused about trying to be conversational in promo.
Let's see the script I have to do after this.
Yep. And
We'll call you.
Of course. It's like it's off the cuff. It's telling a story within the framework of what a promo is. We all know what a promo. Emma and I have had this conversation before. You know what a promo is. You know what a promo sounds like. So you don't need to try and make yourself sound that way. If you tell the story authentic within a promo world, it'll show up as promo, but conversational. I know that that's a lot to kind of throw around, but the truth is that different areas command different types of conversational, but it all comes from an effortless place. That's what, replace the word conversational with the word effortless.
Love that.
Yeah,
I do too. Dave, you still coach outside of voiceover as well, I believe, right?
I do.
So so I wanted to ask, like, if you coach the TrueTell method to people outside of voiceover, including like business and other leaders, what similarities with voice actors do you see, and maybe what are we doing differently? Like, where are the similarities and where are the differences between us who are actors and this is our space, and people who are just out there in the world trying to make a good go of business or whatever it is they're doing?
Sure. Well, I think first of all, the area that actors will excel at is vulnerability. That we have to have more of a malleable soul. It doesn't mean that corporate people are cold. It just means that from our perspective, it's all the feels, right? It's the ability to bend to attitudes and emotions and be able to go there, quote unquote, whereas other people that are not in our industry don't do that.
Yeah.
The reason that I started to coach corporate executives, leaders of all kinds, entrepreneurs, et cetera, is I found when I worked with the voice doctor and I worked as his apprentice, I worked with people from every walk of life in every corner of the planet who had this disorder, and they weren't actors. And so what I realized was this was not simply an actor who used their vocal cords in a wrong way. It was a cross-cultural communications problem. So several years ago, I took the program that I developed for actors and reformatted it for executives. And so what I have found, and it's not because I created it, there has been the thirst for this kind of authentic connection that leadership just doesn't have. Public speaking is one thing, Toastmasters is another, people saying, and people will say to executives, be yourself. You need to be more vulnerable. You need to be more this, but they don't tell you how. This is the how.
Right.
The why is one thing, but this is the how. So the changes I have seen in CEOs, C-suiters, I'm talking executive vice presidents. I've had people say to me, you're never going to get a CEO to be vulnerable. You cannot put executives in a room and expect them to be vulnerable. You want to bet?
And of course, that's because of all those preconceived notions in business that you've got to be strong, you've got to be tough, you've got to be resilient.
Yeah. This is what a leader sounds like.
But honestly, do teams connect with that leader who we know is putting on a face?
Yeah, and it's giving people the opportunities in a room to be with their C-suite counterparts and with their subordinates and having a cross or vertical, we call it more of a vertical conversation than a horizontal one. We could have it within a department, but the fact that a lot of the companies have wanted it to be C-suiters and middle management and lower management in the same room, that is unbelievable that people are allowing themselves to do it. So I feel so fortunate to be able to bring this to a lot of different places, because there are people, unlike actors, who embrace this, that I kept wondering to myself, am I going to get pushback from corporate? And it really hasn't happened. I've had to explain to them what the program is, but there's been some really good success there. So, yeah. Thank you for asking that. That was a really good question.
Thank you.
It's a human issue. This isn't just particularly an actor's issue, or, it's the fact that we all have insecurities. We all have vulnerabilities about how we sound and how we present ourselves, and to Emma's point about authentic becoming the word of the year, I mean, that says a huge amount, Yeah.
Yeah, actors or not, I think we've got to be real. We've got to be real. We've got to be real.
Totally. Because audiences pick up on the inauthenticity in 3 seconds.
Yep.
It reads on stage, it reads on camera, and it reads on microphone. We can tell immediately when an actor is not in the zone, they're not in the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, like, even just listening to both Tom and Jess, I mean, the audience, I think at this point, knows that we use Zoom as a back channel, and the three of us were sitting with, like, Jess, when you were doing your second, we were nodding. We're like,
we were all
back ahead, we're nodding. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like Tom, when you
didn't want to say anything, but
it's like for when Tom was doing, especially for me, the second read, because it was so raw, I was crying, and it was like there was so it is exactly that. It's like it had, again, nothing to do with how anybody sounded.
Yeah.
It was how connected and how real and how just raw it was. And I think this is where we lose, because especially if you work with cans on, you start to fall in love with the dulcet sounds of your voice, or you start to, like Jessica, you said, that you start to criticize yourself and you start to judge. It's like, I could have said that word, or I could have, that was a bit breathy, or that wasn't smooth enough. And it's actually something that Dave Fennoy has said in many conversations that I've had with him, of just be messy. We're messy. We don't enunciate all of the letters in a word ever. Why are we doing that in copy?
Absolutely. And Marilyn Wisner always says that too. Marilyn loves to talk about having jagged edges. Marilyn, if you've ever coached with her or had her direct you, it's adding the frayed edges onto the performances to have them real.
Yeah.
And not make them so manufactured. Don't make them manufactured and perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to take some questions from the chat now, Dave. I'm it's jumping at my eyes. There may be others before that you can grab, Emma, but I've got Tiffany's question here.
Go for it.
Any tips or strategies for performing over Zoom in a class? Zoom is so inauthentic and distant. I struggle to bring my best sometimes in this context. Also, it can be more difficult performing in front of peers than in front of a client. You have to make yourself vulnerable and uncomfortable. Any tips on that?
Sure. The script doesn't know where it is. The script has no idea that it is on Zoom. It doesn't know that it's not in a 5-star studio. It doesn't know that you're not the only person in the room. Stop making a mountain out of a molehill. It's the fact that we are putting other things in front of, you can't see this, but I'm doing this. We're putting one hand in front of another. Just picture it.
We need audio description here.
Yeah.
Picture it. But think of it, you're stepping in front of, this is the same thing as if you were giving a presentation or you were in a studio where the executives, the executive of the client is there as well as the ad agency, and or the room is too cold or the room is too hot, or it's whatever it is. You're allowing other things. I call those external factors. You're letting those external factors overshadow your storytelling. And it, again, this goes for the corporate side as well as the creative side, is that you're letting what you think people are expecting from you to block that effortlessness. Yeah. So I appreciate the question. I think the question is incredibly valid, but whenever I'm doing workshops online, if I ever do Zoom workshops, no one can turn their camera off. It's not allowed. Right. And I will tell you, to support, who posed the question again?
It was Tiffany.
Okay. Tiffany, what I will tell you is, in workshops I have done online, I have had some of the most incredible performances come out of actors because they've allowed themselves to, again, there's the V word, vulnerable. They've allowed themselves to do it. They forget where the camera is. And yeah, so I think it's an incredibly valid question, but I think we all need to just unhook from that as much as we can. And it's a learning process. It takes time.
Yeah. I think that what I've learned from, and I am not innocent of this at all, but what I've learned over time, especially with Zoom stuff, in group stuff, because I've done group stuff with David, and it's nerve-wracking, but at the end of the day, no one is thinking about you as much as you think that they're thinking about you. They're really, and not to be an asshole. Everybody else in that group is having a complete shit fit as well. So they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, and they're reading their script, and they're doing something. Their kids are yelling in the background, and the dog shot on the camera. There's all sorts, everyone's doing their own thing. But we get stuck in this, oh my God, everyone's judging me, and no one gives a crap. You do. And it's not about being mean. It's not saying that no one cares about you as an individual. Everyone's there to support you and love you. No one's there to judge you.
Absolutely.
We're doing that to ourselves.
We are absolutely doing that to ourselves, no question. The people that you need to worry about judging you or judging your work are the clients. And the clients are not waking up that day and going into work going, I'm going to judge these actors today. They got to get a commercial done. They have a documentary to finish. They've got whatever it is, and all they want is connection. They want to hear connection. They want to hear that the script that they have in front of them, the product, the mission statement, whatever they're talking about is being met.
Yeah.
That we are connecting to what they're saying in their script, and they're hearing us say, I see you. I value you. It goes in the other direction, everybody, too. It isn't just about people valuing your voice. It's the fact that you're valuing I can't believe I just did that.
It was all about you.
Sorry. It's like that scene in Bridesmaids where Kristen Wiig is standing over Maya Rudolph. She said, "Well, I'm just, what are you talking about? Well, we're going to a restaurant in Vegas tonight, and I know the owner."
You do. Oh, you do.
Stupid. But it's the fact that the client needs to be valued. The client is asking, what do you know about our story? Do you connect to our story? So it's a two-way street.
And I think, we've heard many casting directors say this on the show, the client wants you to succeed too. that, like, to what you're saying, they didn't wake up in the morning going to go, I'm going to give this person a hard time. They want you to win. They want you to win. Your director wants you to win. The engineer wants you to win, because the sooner you get to the win, the faster everybody moves on to the next thing that they're doing, and everybody's happy.
Totally. And the more likely you'll be brought back, because you know what you're doing. You're coming in with the specificity of the story. That is the most important part. I talk about all the time in the game of voiceover. The object of the game of voiceover is that the person telling the story is the most connected person there could possibly be to tell that story.
Yeah.
So it's not the possibly, the maybe, the probably. Those are all toxic words to me. Those are words you never want to say in a booth. It's not about, maybe I'm connected, let's see what comes out. I hate that phrase. No, let's not see what comes out. Can you imagine the conversation you have with people in your house? Let's just see what comes out of my mouth before we judge what I'm going to say.
Oh, I'm dangerous. Don't get me to do that.
It means all I know. Trouble. I get in trouble all the time for that. Yeah, man.
Oh, I know.
Emma, do you want to grab James' question?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
How do you maintain being in the moment when there is a time restriction? Did a bunch of 6s today that were, technically 10s. So, how...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Good question.
Oh, yeah. Very good question. So one of the ways to do that, James, is, first of all, if a script is overwritten, they will know it eventually. Or like in Emma's case, she had a bunch of 6s and they actually were written as 10s. So, well, let me ask you, Emma, let's turn the tables. How did you solve that problem?
That they were supposed to be 6s, but they were written as 10s.
They were overwritten.
They were completely overwritten. So I gave them 2 at 6 that were really, really fast, and then 1 for performance.
Okay. So the thing to do too for time is, I tend to do this because I've done a lot of legal copy, and I love legal. It's fantastic. That the thing to think about when your time is compressed, think about the scenario, the environment you're in. It's basically using this lead-in. I only have a second, but use that lead-in and say to yourself, I only have a second, but. To practice the copy, James, is overpronounce the words, but do it really slowly. Like anchor, I call it anchoring. Anchor yourself in the sentence where you'll just say something slowly and overpronounce, so that when you go back over it at high speed, you won't create what I call VO black ice. In other words, you won't slide over the words because you're trying to wrap your mouth around it. Yeah. So that, feel it again.
Whoops.
You got to see Emma, how she created that sliding of black eyes. So you
I live in Canada. We do that all the time.
We're in Canada.
Canada. Yeah.
So using that lead in, I only have a second, but that helps.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He says, thank you. He's rolling on the floor laughing. All of the things.
All of things.
All of the things. Mike, do you want to grab Kat's question?
Yes.
Yes.
And Annie is saying I sound far away. I might have just been in the back of my little asylum booth over here laughing at Dave's. Can you hear me now? Does I sound okay, everyone?
You sound fine to me.
All right.
Annie, your dishwasher's too loud. I'm sorry, your dishwasher is too loud, Annie.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's get to Kat's question. I actually really like this question. Kat says, you spoke about rough edges for performances. Which edges are more desirable in your opinion? I like the idea of an imperfect performance for the sake of authentic, but how do we find a balance between our perfectionist side and that read with tasty, authentic rough bits?
Okay, well, the rough bits that I'm talking about, they pertain a little bit more to commercial, but it doesn't mean you can't have rough bits for other areas. In other words, with commercial, particularly with radio, which, again, there's radio's a dying breed, unfortunately. But with radio spots, you have much more of an ability to improv. You have much more of an ability to be a little bit more rounded edges on your reads. Television spots, you might have a lead-in that you keep in the read in the audition. Because the thing to remember, everybody, is, and this comes up all the time, is when you watch spots on television and you hear a spot you may have auditioned for, and the spot sounds more formulaic than it did when you actually did the audition and you said, that's not what they asked for. And the frustration we have a lot of the times is that the audition is the actual job. They wanted conversational more to that, more to their liking in the audition. Once it goes through the mill of the client, the creative director, the CEO, as well as the brand manager. And I mean, by the time it comes out the other side, there are times where it sounds like a shade of itself. So the thing to keep in mind is that they want more of that authenticity in the audition. It may not sound, I'm not saying the reads are going to sound completely different on air, but there are times where they have gone through the mill because the client loves to, pardon my French, frame fuck it. Meaning that I love saying that term. They frame fuck it.
Yeah.
Does that breath add to it? Let's add the breath back in. I mean, that's how some clients are.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we get those all the time. Like, where to what you're saying, you get the audition, you do it, and you're like, okay, it's asking for deadpan, wry, all this, and then it comes out and it's super announcery, bright, smiley, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Or even jobs that we booked. I booked a job a little while ago where they asked for deadpan, wry. They even gave me a sample of what they wanted to sound like. And they say, please try and do it as close to something like this as possible. And I did. I booked the job. But then when the final job happened, they're like, yeah, there's been a change in direction.
Yeah.
And so it goes somewhere else. And so that happens. So it's not because, to what you're saying, we need to understand that sometimes if we hear the spot on TV or whatever that we audition for, and they're like, oh, it's totally different than what the audition was, to your saying, sometimes it's just been...
It's just, that's just kind of how it is. It is what it is. Sometimes you just deliver it. You give them what you want to give them, and then they will come in and mix their own special sauce because again, remember that in the process on their end, someone's up for a promotion, someone's trying to look good in their boss's eyes, someone is terrified to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just err on the side of conservatism when it comes to trying something new.
Yep. Yeah, there's so much more to it than our performance. There's so much more.
Absolutely. We don't like to think that way, but it is all about us.
Emma, I'll let you take the next question.
From Jessica. Should we audition first in genres that we are not trained in? She says
should we audition first in
genres in which we are not trained?
Okay. I'm going to take it as you meaning not first. Should we audition in genres that we don't have any training in?
We're just going to get some clarification. She's going to pop on stage for just a sec.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one thing I will say is about genres you haven't trained in, I'll say this. There have been people that have never trained in promo and they booked a promo. There are people that have never trained in other areas. I would say do not go into that, guys. However, I would get training in those areas if you want to perfect it, but if you want to excel, you don't want to dive into the sphere of that genre. You want to make sure that you know what that genre is. But the fact that let's say you audition for something and you book that job, it's to say, I should work in that genre. That's definite. If you book a job and you've never trained in that area, confirm the fact that you've got something in that area.
Right.
Don't let someone say to you, don't train. I hate when people say that. But you don't want to obsess about it. But getting some education in that particular area is important.
Go ahead, please.
No. Did she clarify the question?
No, she put her hand up and I invited her up on stage, but I don't know. Sometimes there can be a delay.
Okay. What were you going to say, Mike?
I was just going to say it made me think of Brandy Thomas telling us the story of how she just went and auditioned for the Oscars.
She
right.
doing it part time. It was the thing.
I do radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want you to audition for this thing. What is it? Oh, it's the Oscars, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And look what she fell into.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's a legacy story. That is
Jessica.
a legacy story.
Yeah, for sure. We've got Jessica up on stage. Jessica, can you clarify your question for us?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I guess I can't spell. So what I meant was, should we audition for genres in which we're not trained? And my question is that I get a lot of things for video games and animation, and I haven't trained in them. And I have spoken to my agents at Atlas and said, okay, I don't really know like all the, guttural fighting move noises and things like that. And like, yep, duly noted, thank you. And then I still get them. And I know that they're very specific about what they send me because, well, I can just tell from like the other work that they send me. So I feel like, okay, I'm interested in that, but not as interested as I am in other genres. So like, I feel like doesn't come as naturally to me. So can I continue to try or not and get training and then try? That's a weird question, but that's what I wanted to know.
No, what I would say is, because you're getting these auditions, I would get some training. I mean, I wouldn't stop auditioning. I would say get some training in those areas and then add to the knowledge you have about the genre. Don't shy away from it. Because, again, they keep sending you scripts, so you're doing something right. If they didn't like what you were doing, if you talk to Heather about it, you kind of,
Sure.
it's kind of, is kind of have a conversation with one of the agents about it. But I think more importantly than having a conversation with the agents, there is no reason to do that. The proof will be in the pudding, right? Mm-hmm. You go out and you do training on it, and the auditions improve, and you get a call back or get it put on hold or booked. You've proven your own point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a good question.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jessica.
Okay.
There was a great question.
Any other questions?
Right now, we don't have any other questions. Most people are laughing about your French.
Yeah. So is that French? I'm like, yeah, it's French.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments that when I'm already thinking about the moment I will be repackaging the podcast. Does this contain any explicit material? Yep, it is.
Hey, you work with me.
Yes, it does.
Just, yeah.
Yes. Then I'm kind of checking yes by default now because at some point somebody's going to.
You work with Emma. Don't make me the fall guy.
Hello. It's me every time. Me every time. And people are like, ooh,
Got a really clean show, folks. Clean show. The last 2 minutes. There, boom, there it goes. Oh,
There goes Walsh.
so
Big mouth.
close. It's like,
I know.
No, we love it. We love it. I mean, this is a show for grown-ups. I think we don't have any children on here, but
It is.
even if they're here,
even if they
like,
did, wow, like, yeah,
you know,
you know.
it's like my just completely off topic. Madeline's one of her first words. My niece, my eldest niece, who's now almost 12, her first word in the pool in Florida was, we almost died. Like crying, laughing. She was mimicking my mother. Yeah, because no one in my family speaks properly, quote unquote, around children. So, and then it's like, where did you learn to swear? Probably in my house.
Irish people don't swear. What?
No,
Don't be ridiculous, of course.
Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous.
Not at all.
Oh,
No.
well, we don't have any more questions in the chat right now. What's going on for you in the coming weeks? I know you mentioned you got some travels, Dave. Where are you going to be in the next little while, and what's going on?
I'm coming back to LA, and I'm going to be, next week that's voiceover. Next week is the Nava Gala, which will be on Wednesday, which I cannot wait for. Those people have been, I truly am amazed at what they've accomplished in 1 year. It is just incredible.
Mind-blowing, really.
Truly mind-blowing. And I want to, I so want to be there and support them. That's voiceovers coming up, obviously, next week. We have the callback, the promo callback of the 40 folks. I've been judging that for 10 years now. And I love doing that. It's just so much fun And it's intense. I mean, it's, people come in prepared, and they've, we've had some incredible people come through, and it's always great to be able to judge those, get us down to the 6 finalists. So that'll be a lot of fun. But I mean, then, the holidays are coming and all that good stuff. But I'm making some plans for several workshops next year and some new programs available. So, it's always reinventing and adding something new,
It's wonderful. For those,
it's really good.
For those looking to connect, it's been pinned there for the whole show, so I'm sure people have gone to check it out. I have your website pinned at the top of the page, and of course, follow on socials and everything like that. And if coaching with Dave is one of the things that you have on your Christmas list, well, act upon it. Or maybe it's going to be on your New Year's resolution list, or whatever it is. Your goal setting. It's definitely something to work towards. You mentioned, I want to go back to this because I know you said we can talk about this more later, and it's now later, and you just mentioned Nava, and my mind went, he said Nava, he said AI, and I started talking about Tim and all that. Like, give us your thoughts.
What is amazing about this is one of the things I'm learning from, well, first of all, I can't imagine being in the brain of Tim Friedlander. I don't know how he retains what he retains and when he says it back to you.
Yeah.
I just think I'm stupid. Like, I really feel like a child. I don't know, 1/1,000,000th of what he knows. And the fact that he and Karen and Zeke and Sissy Jones and Lindsay Rousseau and all the folks that have been so active with education, one of the things that I'm hearing from Tim is that, the tech companies, the platforms are asking what we want. They want to know what we're looking for in terms of protection, in terms of guidelines. I mean, obviously the charter that they've had companies sign is incredibly groundbreaking, but also just what is out there in terms of the lack of protection. To me, that's the big thing. That's the linchpin. The fact that these two people were at the U.S. Capitol.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I will say this, head of SAG-AFTRA, is huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Now, we have a strike. There's a lot of things that are involved. There are a lot of moving parts. I get it. However, the conversations began pre-strike. This has been a conversation that's been going on for a while. And the fact that Tim and Karen ended up on the floor of the U.S. Capitol, I can't even believe that they were there. And so the fact that they are so proactive when it comes to that is just wonderful. I give them so many kudos for that, so much so. And also, being happy that the strike is over.
Yeah.
At the same time. And the fact that, we're hoping that we don't settle for something in terms of, the worst thing that can happen is if the federal government kind of puts a hands off to this and basically says, well, if there's some kind of an agreement that's happened, why should we need to push for legislation? And the fact that NAVA is really proactive in kind of pushing the envelope to make sure something happens. So all we can do is keep our fingers crossed. And as I've said, storytelling is everything. Storytelling is going to be the thing that will keep you working.
Yeah.
It is what will keep you working.
He actually gave very, very similar advice during the show when he was on, where he said, you want to stand out and protect yourself as best you can, coach, train, be an actor, be a storyteller. The same thing. And what he was saying, things are moving at light speed. So there's no sitting down and we'll see what happens. When I asked him, I said, what kind of timeline? He's like, the next months are going to be very telling.
Yeah, he was
like the next 90 days, he said.
It's like it has to happen. Like, we have to get to the government. We have to speak on everyone's behalf and get this happening because it's too dangerous to not.
Yeah.
I think it's become such a platform for NAVA that it's taking a life of its own where it is the most necessary pillar of that organization's existence. It is what they're doing to lead the charge, which is, again, like I said, I'm so proud of all of them, but I think it's for all of us to really to be as educated as we can be. But that information, like Tim said, it changes at light speed,
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's it. Somebody also had we'd also I failed to mention when we were talking about things that were coming up for the holidays. I am running a Black Friday sale that is extended through this Friday, December 1st.
A week.
For Cyber Week. We're on the Cyber Week. And that information I think there's a link that's actually on the website for that. If anyone has any trouble finding that information, you have the website, you have the Walsh Voiceover Coaching website up. Mike, is that what you have? Okay. Yeah. And my email address as well, which is dave@walshvoiceovercoaching.com. So you've got the website address, just add Dave in front of it. Tell me you can't find the Black Friday sale and we'll connect you on that as well. So, but yeah, anybody that's interested, please come forward. I always, again, my big thing now is getting as much value out of your voice as you can. So that's the mantra. That's where we are.
A lot of great nuggets in the show tonight. This is going to be definitely a hot replay to go back to for people, because there were a lot of.
Yeah, I hope so. Let me ask the two of you. You already asked me 10 questions rapid fire at the beginning. Mm-hmm. What for each of you is the wish? What's your wish for 24 for your career? Both of you. What's your wish? Because I'm doing that a lot with clients right now. Is their wish list?
You go first.
For me?
Yeah.
To work in promo. That is my wish.
Yeah.
It's a genre that I find joy in. It's a genre that I find really challenging, which for me, generally when there's a challenge, then it's at first I'm afraid of it and I want to run away from it. And it's like, absolutely not, I'm not going to do it. And then I'm like, oh, hell no. Look, bring it. So it's an area that I want to find more comfort in.
What are you afraid of when it comes to it? If you don't mind being vulnerable, what is it about it that is scary for you?
It's almost like, it's kind of like French for me. I was brought up in Ireland. We spent a lot of time in France. I spoke French. I moved to Canada. Someone spoke in a language to me in a class that I had no idea what the hell they were saying. Apparently it was French.
Were you in your Brunswick?
So the wah, it did not make any sense at all to me, and I stopped speaking French. So I understand French to listen to it, and I speak it fluently in my head. But if I open my mouth, strange words come out. So promo for me is kind of like commercial. I'm really, really comfortable in. It's something that I've worked really hard at, and I've gotten out of my own way. And I can hear the second I can hear when I'm being inauthentic. I can hear when I'm trying. I understand all of the steps in, and I can apply them to commercial really, really easily and make it. And I book in commercial all the time. But when it comes to promo, it's like, yeah, I get. No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, and I think, again, you and I have worked on that as well. And I think, it's a matter of, and I think that you're exactly where you need to be. I think it's the getting in the head thing. We've talked about that before. That's what gets in your way, is that your ability in this area is exceptional. Other coaches that are promo coaches have worked with you have said the same thing, that we do know that you do definitely have it. It's a matter of just kind of pulling that judgment down as much as you can.
Yeah.
But I hear you. Absolutely. Mike, what about yourself? This is now my show. Anyway.
No, it's a great question. And it's something that I'm happy to say I'm already actively working on. Like, Emma knows when we started this show, and when we do sort of the the goals and everything show that typically gets done at the beginning of the year. I'm one of those people. I don't know too much about doing New Year's resolutions, because those are the ones that kind of get lost along the way. And so I've kind of come to a point where if I want to do something new and it's November 5th, I'm not going to wait till the new year to do something new. So I'm kind of what I want to accomplish over the next little while, the next year, we'll say, is to add an arrow or two to the quiver, so to speak. So a new genre. One of those new genres, I'm throwing my hat into political. So
Say,
Fun.
I'm jumping
so
into
much
that.
fun.
That's, that Emma and I have talked about it, and that I would say is more of a business choice than a passion project choice, kind of. But then there are other ones where I'm like, oh yeah. And so it's the same template that needs to be applied. It's the goal, what's required, is there training required, is there connecting with specific people required, and laying out that groundwork there and going from there.
Yeah.
Are you trying to hold me accountable and make me say it?
He writes everything down. He will write everything down. The man has a memory like I cannot tell you. The stuff that I've told him like 17 years ago, he'll bring up. I'm like, how? How do you remember stuff?
How do you remember this?
The one that I'm going to sharpen this year, because I've done live MC work for years and years, actually more years than I've done voiceover work.
Okay.
And when you get talking and listening to someone like Randy Thomas and Joe Cipriano, doing live announce and voice of God stuff and things like that,
You would rock Voice of God. Absolutely.
I know that's my jam. I love doing it. I did a corporate event here in Ottawa last week, and I really I was on site in the room, kind of that kind of thing. But that's really my jam.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that when you get to that place, that the feeling, and I'm looking at your face as you're having this conversation, just looking at the joy and the excitement of it, that's what we're talking about, that effortless feeling of telling that story, right? Yeah. So it's that joy of those areas. Following your gut is a massive plus, because it will direct you. It will guide you. It really, really and truly will. Mm. So I would suggest for everybody else that's listening as well, is to put together your own strategy list for 24s. Really start to look at what you want to do to up your game. I give this to everyone as homework, is how do you increase the value of your voice in 2024? And that could be a number of different ways of doing it, but how do you increase the value of your voice in 2024?
Yeah.
And that could be, like I said, a lot of different ways. So keep that as we slide into the remainder of the year, keep that in the back of your mind. I think that's a definite piece of homework for everybody. I think that's a really cool thing. So, but again, I just appreciate being able to come on here and spend time with both of you, because I know this show well. I know that it's incredibly popular, and I say this to people that are in our business that are providing resources like this, is that it's not easy to do. It takes an enormous amount of time, and it's a pet project. It's a love project.
Yep. And
what you bring forward, I am incredibly grateful for, because this is how we get the information out there. This is the only way we can do it. One of the key ways. And I appreciate when people like yourselves take the time and attention to create something this Genesis, this genius. So thank you for doing that. And for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad that we were able to get you on the show. You're a busy man. So it was fantastic. That I'm going to get him on the show. I'm getting him.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
Are you kidding? My pleasure. And to everybody else, I just want to wish everyone happy holidays. And we absolutely, now more than ever, we need that love. We need that oh my, I don't even have to say it. It's such overkill, but it can never be, it never goes stale. That love, care, attention this time of year is so important.
Yep.
It really is. So, any other questions or things you want to talk about?
I think we're good. We are coming up. We generally go until 9 p.m. Eastern, which we don't have to translate into PST because you are in.
No, because I'm in the
very excited.
Eastern zone. Yeah. Yes.
So,
we say a big thank you, of course, to our supporters and listeners, whether live or on the replay. We know some people can't physically make it to listen to the live show, but we get comments afterwards that they either catch it here on Clubhouse as a replay or as the podcast. And it's great to see familiar faces that keep coming back. Great to see new people as well. And like you saw in the chat tonight, people are very supportive, and that's part of what keeps this thing going and why we're doing it so much. Yep. So we absolutely love it. Emma, I put the question to you every week. What's going on next week?
I've actually got two things to say. One thing that you know about, you know about it already. Randy Thomas, who was on last week, just wanted to remind everyone of Voices of Love. Speaking of love at this particular time of year, she's decided to create a project called Voices of Love that she's actually going to kind of pitch on Clubhouse. So she's going to try to pop on, her and Dennis will do their own show kind of at the back end of our final show for the year, because we are still running. We still have shows running through December, and I'm calling people for 2024. I got 2 of them booked already. So Voices of Love, Randy Thomas and Dennis Kleinman are going to be organizing that. So please stay tuned for more information about that. And then next week, we have the Queen of TikTok with Mandy Fisher. Astoria Red is her handle on TikTok. She's hysterical. She is funny as hell. She's a super duper talented actor, and she is one of the best content creators I have ever. Her stuff is so, especially as for voice actors, she talks about voice acting and what, like, the do's and don'ts and all of the things, and she is so real, so genuine, so authentic in it. But she talks about, all of the terms of service, all of the things that people freak out about and delete their accounts. And it's like, are you going to delete all your accounts? Because they're all the same. So we're going to talk about a lot of that.
This is going to be a great show for my paranoia.
Absolutely. Mike's going to be rocking in the corner with a blanket over his head.
With the sucking his thumb.
Crowded room over here against the wall. Don't mind me, Emma. Do you just talk to her, okay? Oh, man. It's been so much fun, Dave. Thank you again. Folks, if you've enjoyed the show and would like to catch more of the Voiceover Roundtable, please check us out wherever you get your fine podcasts, or go directly to our website, VORoundtable.com. We hope you'll join us next Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, live here on Clubhouse for the Voiceover Roundtable.
Thank you so very much.
We'll hear you then. Good night, everyone.
Bye.